Hey, welcome to the 5 a.m. Mester Scrum Show. I hope you're doing well today. We have a guest here. We have Hart sitting over here. Hart, do you want to be on the show? I don't want to disturb her because she's never here, but maybe I will because you all never get to see Hart. See Bubbles all the time, but for some reason, Hart's here. Come here, Hart. Come here, baby. Come here. There she is. She's like, "What are you doing?" Hi, Hart. So we got a visit from Hart here on the show. I don't think she's been here since like the beginning of the show, some years ago, huh? Hart, you on the show? She misses her girl. School started again. Kids are off to school. Eddie's going a little crazy. He hasn't started school just yet. Anyway, hey, I want to talk about today. It's Metrics Day. It's been a while since we didn't. Be honest, I think I took a 3-week vacation, or my brain just melted for 3 weeks or something. I want to talk about metrics today. I want to talk about SPC and Scrum Metrics. And the reason what triggered me was one of my connections, and I do look at all the connections and everything that everyone has, had completed a Six Sigma course, got a belt. I forget what belt it was. But then it reminded me of all my SPC days. I got a Six Sigma belt, some probably white belt or something, the very lowest level belt, just saying I went through all the classes. But looking at SPC, Statistical Process Control, and how that influences Scrum metrics, and how you really use that knowledge of SPC to help guide you in what you do with metrics and where you're going and why we do SPC as well. Because there's a lot of companies out there, not to mention some that are nothing I deal with, but I look in the big picture. It's like, are you using your statistical process control to measure your quality? Are you using that capability in there? And I know it is funny. I was thinking, who uses Six Sigma anymore? But they do. It's a very big statistical process control so that they figure out they're measuring the right stuff and what they're doing and do they need to keep measuring it? And which is key with Scrum and Agile, are changes we making improving the process or making the process worse? And that's part of the metrics part that I think a lot of companies don't apply because they really don't understand statistics. But that's another story. Anyways, 5 a.m. Mester Scrum Show. I am Greg Mester, Scrum Master and Agile Coach. I hope you're doing well today. And we talk about Scrum and Agile in a very practical and tactical way so that you can bring more value to your customer without working extra hard to bring that value to your customer and have a little fun along the way. And part of the SPC helps you have that little fun too, by the way, because you don't always have to measure things. So how does SPC and metrics work together? I got my whiteboard. I was gonna bring this up. So we got SPC, Statistical Process Control, and Scrum Metrics, right? And I'm right. Oh, I wrote Mester. Metrics. Statistics. Process Control. What is statistical process control? You got a whiteboard? So, in statistical process control, the idea is that you measure whatever you're doing, whether it be manufacturing, business, outputs, inputs, doesn't matter. You measure, and you'll get ups and downs, right? You get ups and downs, and the idea is that these are standard deviations, above and below, or whatever. And then you come up with an average, right? The idea is that, are we within control? There's a couple things you could do. You can do efforts to tighten, this variability in your process, right? So the effort you do, so you can use statistics, use metrics. Say, well, hey, we're measuring over here. Do we want to make it tighter? Does it make sense from a value perspective to make this tighter? Does it really produce the value we need? Sometimes the answer is no, but some people do it anyhow. I'm like, why are you doing it? So here's the idea. You make a change. Let's say change happens. And we're always doing retro, right? Change happens. At some point in time, this is time. And this is the value. Whatever the metric metric you're using, right? Your metric, right? So let's say we make change to improve the process. Now, here's the thing, and I messed up this board because it's going to make it harder. So the change can make things better, and it can make things worse, and it can make things stay the same. It can have no impact. Let's say no impact. A bad impact, right? And it can have a good one, right? Good impact. Now, if it had no change and it cost you extra money to do whatever you did, then maybe you don't do it anymore. If the impact was bad, you definitely stop doing it because what it would have done is it would change your output to a lower level output, right? Maybe it's the same here. Now, let's say we did a good impact just for the sake of the story, sake for time. Let's say now our process changed. We have a new average. And new range. New range. Right? So now our process did better. Now, this is the basics of SPC. You make a change, you measure it. Once you have consistency, you can make changes and see whether or not your effort. Now we got Bubbles. Oh God, we're gonna have a cat fight. Bubbles, come here. Bubbles, over here. Here comes Bubbles. Heart was not happy. I don't know if you heard it on the microphone, but she hissed at Bubbles. Bubbles, you know, she's had to be on the show too. So anyway, so you measure the new change. So that's the idea, that when we do our retros and we change our metrics, the idea is we're change, like if you're going to do velocity, right? And you make a change. I do more unit tests or whatever. Is it? But you can also have a bad impact on what you were measuring before, but it can have a process. Okay, we got a cat fight. Cat fight. Oh, I wish I had a video. You okay, Heart? Oh, poor baby. I know. The one time you're over here and your sister comes over here and starts to fight. Just tells you everyone gets in battles every once in a while, right? So the idea is that you can measure the new state and did your change really impact it? Now, one of the other aspects of SPC is your frequency of measurement. So, you know, that is one aspect. So this is one aspect. We're measuring that. But the other aspect is frequency of measurement. Right? Now, at some point, you get your process down, like this process, down to a pretty state, and you know what your results are going to be because you're not changing your process. At some point, you'll lower the frequency of the times you have to actually measure, and you measure less often. So as you stabilize, you measure less often. People forget that. See, so I put this down here in the bottom. See, frequency of measure, as you stabilize, you measure less often. So the idea behind SPC and Six Sigma is that once you establish your process and you're in that place, you don't have to measure as often. Instead of measuring every sprint, you measure every quarter, or you measure every once in a while. You measure a couple of sprints, or if it and the way here's a key. I'm not saying just don't measure. If your measurement is labor intensive and takes a lot of effort and a lot of, I don't know, energy or people power or admin, because you know a lot of these people like to do manual measurements, then you don't need to do it as often, right? Unless you make change. If, like in Scrum, you're trying to make change every sprint to make the process better, then you keep measuring it, but you need a stable point. And this is also the benefit of having shorter time boxes, because you get more measurements, right? If you've got a shorter time box, let's say a week or 2 weeks, versus 3 weeks and 4 weeks, you get more opportunities to take a measurement. Therefore, you can see if your change and impact. And this is one of the things you have to weigh as a group. Now, we're always making change. If we're always making change, but we don't have enough measurement, we may need to change, besides velocity, how we want to measure outcome, right? You got to come up with different metrics besides just velocity. For example, if you do a unit test, right, and you're doing more unit tests and it impacts your velocity, maybe it lowers your velocity to do new thing, but you get a better quality output, right? So maybe on this chart, but maybe it's not a bad impact. Maybe it's a quality impact. Maybe you added unit tests or added some testing level, or maybe hacking tests or some kind of security test to your process that lowered your velocity, but maybe it's not really a necessarily bad impact. It's a bad impact on the metric, but maybe your quality went up, right? Right. So maybe impact on the metric. Now, is the metric a value? I don't know. It depends. Impact on metric. However, quality went up, like unit test or security. So maybe you did security testing, right? So maybe your impact went down in the metrics, but the problem is the good thing is your quality went up. So you got to think about it. So sometimes your metrics goes down. However, the quality of your work went up unit tests because you added unit tests, or maybe a security test from hackers. We got a lot of hackers out there. So you got to think about that, the impact. So it may or may not be relevant, right? So I wanted to share that with you. And again, the more frequencies you get on these measurements, you may not have to measure it as often, right? Automation has eliminated a lot of the manual effort to get these measurements. So like in Jira, you get it, or any one of these systems, you get a velocity measurement every sprint. You don't have to go add everything done and do a spreadsheet and do all this stuff. It just instantly gives it to you. So I wanted to share that with you, thinking about my connection who got their Six Sigma belt. Made me think about SPC controls and our metrics and how we really need to, maybe it's a good thing to learn. Why do you need to? Maybe it's a good thing to learn about statistics and how SPC is done to help guide you and influence you in how you do metrics and why you are doing the metrics. Some people just do velocity and don't understand. Well, I'm just going to measure velocity, but why are you measuring velocity? You are going to measure velocity with an SPC thought process to see if that change you made improved the velocity, and have some data to stabilize. Yeah, we have a new process and improved it, or maybe it went down, but we're getting a higher quality. You need to understand the SPC, Statistical Process Control, to better understand why you're doing the metrics, right? And it's not just, oh, we're just going to measure for measure's sake. No, we're doing it so that when we make a change, we can establish whether the change improved the process or the speed, maybe decreased, maybe it stayed the same, and we're spending money to change this process, but it's not improving anything. So maybe we don't do it anymore because it doesn't make sense to spend money on something that doesn't improve the process. That makes sense. Anyway, I want to wish you all a great day. Happy scrumming. Back into it. I'm off my vacation from mental. I don't know. I took 3 weeks off, I think 3 weeks, about 3 weeks. And just went on a long vacation, just de-stressed, I guess, or get things done off my backlog. I've been sitting around for 2 years. So I want to wish you the best. Have a great day. See you soon. And think about SPC controls. If you haven't learned about statistical process control, it makes sense to learn a little bit about it and apply it to what you do in Scrum and Agile and understand statistics. You get to apply statistics. Maybe you learned in college. Who knows? Anyway, I want to wish you all the best. Have a great day and